Chairman Thomas Kean and Vice Chair Lee Hamilton held a news conference to discuss the findings. It's about an hour, 20 minutes.
Good morning.
Good Bible.
Today we present this report and these recommendations to the President of the United States, to the United States Congress, and the American people. This report represents the unanimous conclusion of the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States. On September 11th, 2001, 19 men armed with knives, box cutters, mace, and pepper spray penetrated the defenses of the most powerful nation in the world. They inflicted unbearable trauma on our people, and at the same time they turned the international order upside down. At this point, we would like to ask you to remember for a moment how you felt that day. The grief, the enormous sense of loss, but remember also how we came together that day as a nation. Young and old, rich and poor, didn't matter whether you were a Republican or a Democrat. We had a deep sense of hurt, but out of that came a deep sense of purpose. We knew what we had to do as a nation to respond, and we did. But it's also fair to say that on that September day, we were unprepared. We did not grasp the magnitude of a threat that had been gathering over a considerable period of time. As we detail in our report, this was a failure of policy, management, capability, and above all, a failure of imagination. Now, we recognize as commissioners that we have the benefit of hindsight. And since the plotters were flexible and resourceful, we cannot know whether any single step or series of steps would have defeated them. What we can say with a good deal of confidence is that none of the measures adopted by the United States government before 9/11 disturbed or even delayed the progress of the al-Qaeda plot. There were several unexploited opportunities. Our government did not watch list future hijackers, Hazmi and Midhoff, before they arrived in the United States, or take adequate steps to find them once they were here. Our government did not link the arrest of Zacchaeus Moussaoui, described as interested in flight training for the purpose of using the airplane as a terrorist act, to the heightened indications of attack. Our government did not discover false statements on visa applications or recognize passports that were manipulated in a fraudulent manner. Our government did not expand no-fly lists to include names from terrorist watch lists or require airline passengers to be more thoroughly screened. These examples make up part of a broader national security picture where the government failed to protect the American people. The United States government was simply not active enough in combating the terrorist threat before 9/11. Our diplomacy and foreign policy failed to extract bin Laden from his Afghan sanctuary. Our military forces and covert action capabilities did not have the options on the table to defeat al-Qaeda or kill or capture either bin Laden or his top lieutenants. Our intelligence and law enforcement agencies did not manage or share information or effectively follow leads to keep pace with a very nimble enemy. Our border, immigration, and aviation security agencies were not integrated into the counterterrorism effort. And much of our response on the day of 9/11 was improvised and ineffective, even as extraordinary individual acts of heroism saved countless lives. Our failures took place over many years and administrations. There's no single individual who is responsible for our failures. Yet individuals and institutions cannot be absolved of responsibility. Any person in a senior position within our government during this time bears some element of responsibility for our government's actions. Having said that, it is not our purpose to assign blame. As we said at the outset, we look back so that we can look forward. Our goal is to prevent future attacks. Every expert with whom we spoke told us that an attack of even greater magnitude is now possible and even probable. We do not have the luxury of time. We must prepare and we must act. The al-Qaeda network and its affiliates are sophisticated, patient, disciplined, and lethal. Osama bin Laden built an infrastructure and organization that was able to attract, train, and use recruits against even more ambitious targets. He rallied new zealots with each demonstration of al-Qaeda's capability. His message and his hate-filled ideology have instructed and inspired untold recruits and imitators. He and al-Qaeda despise America and its policies. They exploit political grievances and hopelessnesses within the Arab and Islamic world. They indoctrinate the disaffected and pervert one of the world's great religions. And they seek creative methods to kill Americans in limitless numbers, including, if they can do it, with the use of chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons. Put simply, the United States is faced with one of the greatest security challenges in our long history. We have struck blows against the terrorists since 9/11. We have, we believe, prevented attacks on the homeland. We do believe we are safer today than we were on 9/11, but we are not safe. Because al-Qaeda represents an ideology, not a finite group of people, we should not expect the danger to recede greatly as years to come. No matter whom we kill or capture, including Osama bin Laden himself, there will be still those who plot against us. Bin Laden has inspired affiliates and imitators. The societies they prey on are vulnerable, the terrorist ideology is potent, and the means for inflicting harm are readily available. We cannot let our guard down. Congressman Hamilton.
Before continuing our narrative, may I simply rise to a point of personal privilege to say what remarkable leadership we have had from the chairman of this commission. One of these days I'm going to create a Public Servant Hall of Fame, Tom, and you're going to go in on the first ballot, I assure you. And we've had remarkable support from a dedicated group of commissioners and a highly talented staff headed by Dr. Zellicoe and Chris Kojum and Dan Marcus and others. And we are deeply indebted to them, as Tom will say again in a few minutes. I begin with the recommendations. This commission, of course, does not have all of the answers, but we have thought about what to do, a global strategy, and how to do it, a different way of organizing our government. But based on our thorough review of the government's performance and our examination of the enemy, we recommend the following elements for a counterterrorism strategy. This strategy must be balanced. It must integrate all the elements of national power: diplomacy, intelligence, covert action, law enforcement, economic policy, foreign aid, homeland defense, and military strength. There is no silver bullet or decisive blow that can defeat Islamist terrorism. It will take unity of effort and sustained and effective use of every tool at our disposal. We need to play offense, to kill or to capture the terrorists, deny them sanctuaries, and disrupt their ability to move money and people around the globe. We need to ensure that the key countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia are stable, capable, and resolute in opposing terrorism. We need to sustain a coalition of nations that cooperates bilaterally and multilaterally with us in the counterterrorism mission. We need a better dialogue between the West and the Islamic world. We also highlight the need to restrict and roll back the proliferation of the world's most dangerous weapons. We need to put forth an agenda of opportunity, economic, educational, political, so that young people in the Arab and Islamic world have peaceful and productive avenues for expression and hope. We need to join the battle of ideas within the Islamic world, communicating hope instead of despair, progress in place of persecution, life instead of death. This message should be matched by policies that encourage and support the majority of Muslims who share these goals. At home, we need to set clear priorities for the protection of our infrastructure and the security of our transportation. Resources should be allocated based upon those priorities, and standards of preparedness should be set. The private sector and local governments should play an important part in this process. We need secure borders with heightened and uniform standards of identification for those entering and exiting the country, and an immigration system able to be efficient, allowing good people in while keeping the terrorists out. If, God forbid, there is another attack, we must be ready to respond. We must educate the public, train and equip our first responders, and anticipate countless scenarios. We recommend significant changes in the organization of government. We know that the quality of the people is more important than the quality of the wiring diagrams. Good people can overcome bad structures. They should not have to. Day and night, dedicated public servants are waging the struggle to combat terrorists and protect the homeland. We need to ensure that our government maximizes their efforts through information sharing, coordinated effort, and clear authority. A critical theme that emerged throughout our inquiry was the difficulty of answering the question, who is in charge? Who ensures that agencies pool resources, avoid duplication, and plan jointly? Who oversees the massive integration and unity of effort necessary to keep America safe? Too often, the answer is no one. Thus, we are recommending a national counterterrorism center. We need effective unity of effort on counterterrorism. We should create a national counterterrorism center to unify all counterterrorism intelligence and operations across the foreign and the domestic divide in one organization. Right now, these efforts are too diffuse across the government. They need to be unified. We recommend a national intelligence director. We need unity of effort in the intelligence community. We need a much stronger head of the intelligence community and an intelligence community that organizes itself to do joint work in national mission centers. We need reforms of the kind the military had 2 decades ago. We need a Goldwater-Nichols reform for the intelligence community. The intelligence community needs a shift in mindset and organization so that intelligence agencies operate under the principle of joint command, with information sharing as the norm. We need reform in the United States Congress. We need unity of effort in the Congress. Right now, authority and responsibility are too diffuse. The intelligence committees do not have enough power to perform effectively their oversight work. Oversight for Homeland Security is splintered among too many committees. We need much stronger committees performing oversight of intelligence. And we need a single committee in each chamber providing oversight of the Department of Homeland Security. We need reform in the FBI. We need a stronger national security workforce within the FBI. We do not support the creation of a new domestic intelligence agency. What the FBI needs is a specialized and integrated national security workforce consisting of agents, analysts, linguists, and surveillance specialists. These specialists need to be recruited, trained, rewarded, and retained to ensure the development of an institutional culture with deep expertise in intelligence and national security. We need changes in information sharing. We need unity of effort in that task. The United States government has access to vast amounts of information, but it has a weak process, a weak system of processing and using that information. Need to share must replace need to know. And we need a better process for transitions between one administration and another for national security officials, so that this nation does not lower its guard every 4 or 8 years. These and other recommendations are spelled out in great detail in our report. We have made a limited number of recommendations focusing on the areas we believe most critical. We are acutely sensitive to the need to vigorously protect our liberties as we secure and guard our security. We endorse many of the actions taken in the wake of 9/11 to facilitate government action and information sharing. But we stress that these measures need to be accompanied by commitment to our open society and the principle of review, safeguards that are built into the process and accompanied by vigorous oversight. We must, after all is said and done, preserve the liberties that we are fighting for.
Thank you, Congressman Hamilton, one of the most decent and thoughtful men I've ever had the pleasure to know. Before we close, we offer just a few more thoughts. We approached our task with a deep respect for the place of September 11th in our nation's history. We have compared the shock, some have compared the shock we felt to Pearl Harbor, others to the Kennedy assassination. There are no comparisons. This was a moment unique in its horror in our long history. As in every 4 years in this democracy, we are in the midst of a presidential campaign. Our two great parties will disagree, and that is right, and that is proper. At the same time, on this subject, we must unite to make our country safer. Republicans and Democrats must unite in this cause. The American people must be prepared for a long and difficult struggle. We face a determined enemy who sees this as a war of attrition, indeed as an epical struggle. We expect further attacks. Against such an enemy, there can be no complacency. This is the challenge of our generation. As Americans, we must step forward and we must meet that challenge. We have reviewed as a commission 2.5 million pages of documents. We've interviewed over 1,200 individuals, including experts and officials, past and present. Our work has been assisted by a superb staff. Each one of these professionals has provided dedication and expertise that has often exceeded our very highest expectations. And we also had the honor of working with an extraordinary group of Americans, our commissioners. Each has shown skill, determination, and collegiality. We close, most importantly, by thanking the families who lost loved ones on 9/11. You demanded the creation of this commission. You have encouraged us every step of the way as partners and as witnesses. From your grief, you have drawn strength. You have given that strength to us. And we are determined, as you instructed us, to do everything possible to prevent other families from ever suffering such a tragedy again. On that beautiful September day, we felt great hurt, but we believed and we acted as one nation. We united as Americans have always united in the face of any common foe. 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats have come together today with that same unity of purpose. We file no additional views in this report. We have no dissents. We have each decided that we will play no active role in the fall presidential campaign. We will instead devote our time, as we have, to work together in support of the recommendations in this report. You see, we believe that acting together as Republicans and Democrats, we can make a difference. We can make our nation safer. We can make our nation more secure. We'd be happy to take your questions.
Why was it that you decided as a commission not to say whether the attacks could have been prevented or not prevented, given all the information that you have accumulated over the 20 months?
Excuse me, I didn't hear the beginning of the question. It's coming out now. I think the microphone didn't work well. Could you repeat the question?
Why was there no determination about whether the attacks could have been prevented or not prevented, given all of the information that you have accumulated over the past 20 months?
What we did is present the facts as we learned them. As you look at these facts, time after time, you will find, as we detailed, people who got in to this country who should not have gotten in because their travel documents didn't earn that distinction. We document intelligence agencies who didn't share information. We document actions by the government that should have been taken and were not taken. But you've asked, would any single one of these things, or even in combination, are we sure that if they had occurred in a different way, that 9/11 would have prevented? I can't say we are sure. We do not know. We think it's possible. But we have not drawn that absolute conclusion because we don't believe that absolute conclusion is justified by the facts.
Hi, John Diamond, USA Today. Going through the report, the findings seem to focus on a whole array of problems. The proposals for solution are focused narrowly in structural solutions, changes in the shape of government. The families are already being quoted today as saying that they view this as very, very important. Their next step will be to see that these are implemented. I'm wondering if there's any concern that it's kind of a false promise, the idea that if the structure is fixed, that, as you say, Mr. Chairman, that there will not be or may not be another attack such as this, that structural reform is the answer to preventing another 9/11?
I think the report is much broader than your question might suggest. You are correct that an important part of the report focuses on organizational change in the executive branch and in the Congress. And in my remarks a moment ago, I emphasized those.